Let's do it. So, let's talk. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the King CJ Music Podcast. And let me tell you something. I have been waiting a while to do this. But the rap beef kind of put it aside. But also, make this. Happy Mother's Day to mothers that were there, mothers that were absent. Happy Mother's Day, right? This goes to any mother, really. Biological, but also IBF, and we can go into detail about that. But let me, without further ado, because this introduction is gonna be a long introduction. So, the artist I'm gonna talk about today on Mother's Day is an artist I believe, without a doubt, is the most creative artist, but also an artist in which I think people will adore. But at the same time, this artist has gone famous for songs like Go, Anxiety, and others. And apparently, after hearing all of this, it will be Endgame. Endgame will be added to her roster. She's a London native. She is a London native. A London native. A songwriter, writer, Kat Burns. And let me tell you something. This album, the early 20s. She's 23. She's 23 at this current moment, and she's gonna talk about her early 20s, which I think gives an interesting perspective. But right now, we're not here to talk about the whole album. We're here to talk about this chorus. We're here to talk about like 3 songs we're getting, or 4 we're getting, that we already know of. So that'd be Ghosting. We've heard that before. Live More. Love More. We've heard that too. We've heard Go. There's a remix version that I can't wait to hear. Ghosting, I believe we've heard. But right now, I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm happy that she's releasing this album. I'm getting ahead of myself. We're here to talk about the Endgame, which is the 3rd track on this album that I think is great. And why I say it's great is because you get this catchy chorus. And as we had a conversation earlier with somebody this week, and we were talking about communication is key. And Kat Burns is making music, which we can only assume is from her actual life that she's living. While this song is only 2 minutes and maybe 2 minutes and 30 seconds long, she opens this song. She says, I thought we could have been Endgame. That's how she's been promoting it. And I'm telling you, that in itself is a great way to do this song. And we'd love to have her on the show. We'd love to have her on the show. If, everything came in line, let her have her on the show. But it's this chorus, I think it's kind of wrongy to act. Like, this first verse is amazing. Because it's like, at first I think it's wrong for you to keep asking for more chances. And this is just it's a very simple line, but you can hear the R&B pop origins of this song, and it's something that I really do enjoy, right? It says, but maybe the right thing would be, right thing would be letting us straight and be apart because we're not working, right? Which I think is great. We'll talk about that. We think that's great. But this pre-chorus and this chorus, right? We'll get to this verse. We'll get to this bridge. But this chorus is just something I enjoy. Now, it is repetitive, but it's, baby, we could have been Endgame. And it's just, it throws this idea of hope out, right? Like, if this person could get themselves together and fix everything, they could be Endgame. They could be the ending relationship, and Endgame refers to, we could have been Endgame. We could have been the couple. This bridge I do enjoy. It's this bridge I enjoy. Like, overall, this song in general I enjoy, but this chorus that she gives with so much passion, and that we could have been in game. Like, it's the 3/4. It's the 1, 2, the 3, 4. I love it. It would have been in game. Okay, I'm gonna stop myself from singing it, but it's just. or kind of like going with it. But it's a very catchy song. I recommend anyone go listen to it. But it's this second verse that I just want to kind of draw attention to, because it says, so we're starting from now. You're gonna change in the communication and communicate your feelings differently, which we can break that down in a lot of different ways. Where communication is key. Where if you're not communicating your feelings, how am I gonna know? As when you start feeling, we're gonna have communications. We're not gonna argue. We're gonna communicate. You're gonna be consistent, and you won't overstep like these certain boundaries that I put up in my life for our relationship. You can't overstep them, which is great. But you also maybe a switch off one in your head, maybe a switch one off your head, and maybe you can understand that if we communicate better, if we do this, and this is the thing, a lot of relationships cannot communicate, cannot have good communication. So then when you don't have good communication, relationships can't last. I don't mean to do this, right? But it says, starting from now, you have to be consistent in telling people your feelings, but you also have to show me that respect. And which a lot of relationships, we can argue, aren't something a lot of people do, right? But it's just saying that show me that you listen. Like, you just have to show through these boundaries that you have to change in order for us to get this relationship together. Because I'm willing to put that in there, but you have to show me you changed, or did a switch go off in your head? It's maybe a switch went off in your head, and maybe you think the same. Maybe we haven't changed. You're asking me for a second chance. You're asking me for these many chances, but you have not changed, which kind of shows the passion in the song. It's a simple, but it's lies. But when are you gonna realize that you've been doing the wrong things? And by no means am I a perfect person, but when are you going to? Because it's hurting me. So when are you going to acknowledge that you're hurting me? When are you going to acknowledge you're hurting me? And this bridge that I love, because the bridge goes, I shouldn't have to tell you 1,000 times how to love me. I tried. I shouldn't have to show emotion or cry for you to actually pay attention to my emotions, which it's kind of true. Like, this song, and as I said, I was just having a conversation about communication with a good friend of mine, but it's this idea, right, that you have to kind of communicate. You have to. If you don't communicate in relationships, they normally don't work out, and this person kind of feels like you're not making an effort, which refers back to the song. You've been doing things all wrong, doing it all wrong. But she's admitting that she's not perfect, right? So we assume. But this is how you know you're a good songwriter. We should have been in game. It's a very simple song. It's a simple two verses, a chorus, a pre-chorus, a bridge, and an outro. Right? But it's a very simple song. There's not much to break down. But when we talk about this song, like, this song in itself, a solid 8 out of 10 for me. Right? The chorus, the bridge are great. The two verses, or the parts of the verses that we hear, are something to think about, right? And especially if you're going through these emotions, without a doubt, I would definitely give Cat Burns a listen to. But on that same note, and I'm not sponsored or associated with it, but as I said, I was talking about communication with a friend earlier. But we could have. I'm sorry, but she made this catchy song, and it's every time I talk about it with Cat Burns, it seems like it's a Freudian slip, because it's like in game. It seems like a Freudian slip, but it's genuine. Like, it's not something you're just gonna like. Okay, I'm not forcing this. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. It's a genuine emotion you get from, like, hearing the song, right? Especially if you're in a relationship in which you're like, okay, how can I be a better communicator in my relationship? It's very hard to say you can't find it. And Cat Burns, this album, I repeat, is releasing on July 12th, which is not far away. Let me say, isn't far away. And Cat Burns, every time she releases an album, I thoroughly enjoy myself. the official list is not out there yet. This is gonna be interesting. So I'm gonna kind of shorten my episode and say it like this. I love what Cat Burns is putting out there, and so if communication is the issue in your relationship, let me put it like this. There are a few methods. I'd definitely go listen to it, especially if you feel that you need to be heard because, like, you aren't getting, like as she says, you're doing all the wrong stuff. You feel like your partner's doing all the wrong stuff, and that communication isn't strong, or you want a better communication style. There are two things. I definitely say listen to Cat Burns. Like, without a doubt, Cat Burns is certified, right? But at the same time, I sit here, I write down when I was writing this episode, I was like, this is an episode in which I want to make sure communication is key. It reminds me of this Gottman method, and this Gottman method basically is, for every wrong thing you do, you have to do 5 things to better improve yourself, right? And he talks about this study, and a little tangent off the topic, but it's when people don't communicate in relationships, people don't know how they're feeling, and then when you don't communicate very well, you step over people's boundaries that they've set. And now we can argue that boundaries are what you set for your relationship among two people in a conversation, which can lead to conflict and which can lead to conflict. But it's. I'm so happy Cat Burns released this. I'm so happy because she releases stuff and it seems like it's always in the right moment that I needed it. Because Cat Burns released Endgame and I was thinking, this song, without a doubt, will make you think. This song and this chorus is catchy. And especially if you need a good cry, it shouldn't make me cry. That bridge, halfway through, and I'll read it for you again, but if the bridge is, because I shouldn't have to tell you 1,000 times how to love me. I've tried and I shouldn't have to cry for you to understand, for you to realize you've been doing stuff all wrong. Right? Because communication leads to these type of attachment styles, and attachment styles lead to how a person receives affection and how they do it, if they're physical touch, if they're gifts. You know, communication is key. And I don't want to preach and be like a counselor or anything, but it's, you hear this from Cat Burns and you go, this is a song I can get behind. Because it's a genuine song. It's a true emotion. It's something genuine. And to hear her write it in her early 20s, which makes me think she's going to have something about late 20s and early 20s, and we can talk about emergent. But dearly, I do love this song, right? And so I'm not necessarily sure who's going to hear this and go, well, we need better communication, or I feel like me and my heart need better communication. And for the guys, I'd go, if the mother of your children or your wife doesn't feel this way, Mother's Day is a great example. But communication is always key. And we kind of hear we hear a woman's perspective on it that many people might not want to hear because they're like, oh, well, I don't understand why I need to hear her opinion. But this right here could be used for just like a cleanser, to just get your emotions out, right? This song in itself, and I know I seem like I'm trying to promote this song in ways that I have never promoted a song before, but it is a good song, right? Without a doubt, I would definitely tell people to go give this a listen. I think without a doubt, if you don't get anything else from me, this would. And so I'm going to kind of get to this point where I'm not going to ramble, because I tried to write this episode a bunch of times. And I emphasize that most of these parts, and by no point is somebody saying that, by no point is anybody saying that person that you're talking to is not, by no means is a person that you think is perfect. It's perfect. They're not. They're not saying they're perfect by saying that everything you're doing is wrong, but it's not necessarily helping them feel loved. So they're crying because they don't feel like, I don't feel affection the same way you feel affection, and I'm forced to feel that way because you won't show me that affection. Which is, and it's entirely deeper than it is, which is great. But I'm gonna end this episode by saying it's that. I said it's great. The chorus is great. The verse is good. Vocally, this sounds great. But the high notes I would prefer more from her. But that's a because I know she can sing. This is great. But it never supposed to storyline, which I do enjoy, which I would argue is one of the things I love when Kat Burns does. She gives us something to listen to that isn't like that's something that isn't mainstream, but it's also very great. But she's also going control, and it seems like I'm promoting her, but I'm not. But I think if you ask me, artists out of London, I would definitely say Kat Burns. Now let me add to this quick part right here, and I go: if communication is your problem, John Gottman has created this idea or created this kind of principles for people that are trying to get better at communicating and dealing with their relationships. He did a study that kind of correlates the same thing. That people or masters that were great in communication showed better responses in a relationship where, if you do one bad thing, they did 5 good things to offset it and stuff like that, which, thank you, right? Because while I'm not saying, I'll put it like it, while John Gottman's methods, he does speak about these issues, and a lot of people go, well, I want to hear an expert or somebody talk about it. I want to hear an expert or somebody that's going through it talk about it, and they go to, well, the Gottman method is a method of which they focus on how you make a better relationship, and communication is key, They focus on communication. Now, I want to warn you, the Gottman Institute, it's a little pricey, and I'm not bad on the Gottman Institute. I think that method is one of the best methods for communication. However, if you listen to Kat Burns, you'll get the same kind of emotion, but also you can hear it solely and it kind of be like a family affair, because there's not much cursing in the song, which is great. It's really limited cursing, which, if you just want to get your emotions out, just get your emotions out how you're feeling, because you feel like you're not being hurt in your current relationship, well, I definitely listen to Kat Burns. But if you need to also show your partner that, hey, this is how I'm feeling, you just put on some, say, Alexa, play some Kat Burns, And that show, play you some Kat Burns. And then the song is in game, but it really does give people a perspective that they may not take into account. I was trying to make an effort, and that's why it hurts. When people try to make an effort in a relationship to meet somebody where they necessarily need to be, they aren't necessarily there, and it seems like I'm preaching, and it seems like I'm doing all this. But the song is really deep. You take some of these songs out, but why do I always have to show emotion for you to cry? This song is emotional. This song is great. First couple listens, this made me very emotional because I was going through it at the time. I'm better now, but this is something in which if you need something like a palate cleanser, you need something to make you more happy, you just need something to make you feel better because you're going through something in a relationship, I would definitely say play Kat Burns. I really would. With that all being said, the song's 8 out of 10. The chorus is great. This is good. Overall, this song is good. I think it has a lot of replay value, so that adds a point. So it's 8 out of 10. And overall, if you want a new artist to listen to, I'm listening to Kat Burns. With that all being said, I hope you have a great Mother's Day if you are sharing it with your mother, or if you are a mother. Or if you're sharing it with somebody that's close to related family that is. But happy Mother's Day.